business scenario number one is, do I have the right inventory? Do I have, what do I have on hand? Is it the right stuff? And can I make my customers happy? Isn't it really always about the customer? Yes, in the warehouse you want to know where things are, but it really is about customer service, being able to go get things efficiently, things like that. So when we talk about where are my items in the warehouse, if you've been using Makola for a while, you know that Makola has a financial location called a warehouse. A warehouse can be 3 digits, 1, 2, 3. It could be CA for California, MA for Massachusetts. You have flexibility in naming those warehouses. But sometimes warehouses are bigger than your garage. Some people that have WiSys have 300,000 square feet, and they have multiple warehouses. So sometimes it's important to know where stuff is in the warehouse, and we use bin locations to do that. So part of the processes that we're going to see today is we're going to look at how do I get my material received, how can I label it, and how can I put it away where other people can find it. This might be a warehouse that would make sense. You have a receiving dock here where things come in, and over here we have the shipping dock. What happens in between is your magic of receiving product in, maybe palletizing it, putting it away, maybe just moving it from here to there, maybe quality checking it. But eventually you want to put it in racking or aisles that may be like A, B, C, D, etc. You may have an overstock area. You may have an area where you move pallets around. And then over here maybe a building area, maybe where you assemble your orders to eventually get them out the shipping door. If you look at a warehouse, many warehouses are laid out like one-way streets, especially around the aisle. So you may do a traffic tour, if you will, to go get material that you'd be instructed to always go in a certain rotation. This helps eliminate people running into each other and moving material and aisles getting jammed. You can see within an aisle we have rack spaces, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So this is typically what the aisle system would look like. In an aisle, my warehouse is laid out with aisle A, with the lowest level being my A0 level, and my second level is really 1. So 0 is my pick location for individual boxes, and these above areas are where I put full storage. So I generally have products palletized and put up above. When I need more product, I would drop the product from here to here. Sometimes people want to put areas in the warehouse as bins, but they want them to be kind of general areas, and that's okay too. Makola is extremely flexible. You can have up to 8 alphanumeric digits with your bin number. So this particular company has a forklift, and when this guy takes this pallet and drops it anywhere in this area, he's going to scan this hanging barcode up here, which is going to indicate that zone or that area where that product should be. And that's very okay. Lots of companies do that, versus having a specific area with a bin location for every product. So if you look at this area here, this is my aisle T, and this is location 17, this is location 18, and the arrow is indicating which bin that number is referring to. If we look a little closer, many times barcodes not only have text that you can read as a human, but you also have a barcode. This particular barcode is a 2D barcode. Lots of our customers like those because, one, you can put a lot of data. You could easily cram 8 digits in that, and you can scan it from the forklift without having to get off. That's a nice technique. Now you'll notice here that this pallet has a pallet label, and not only does it have the big barcode, but if you squint hard, you can actually see this smaller barcode here. This barcode, the smaller barcode, is used if you're up close and personal, and the larger one is used for the forklift driver to drop that particular pallet number in this bin. So those are just a few screenshots here of what a warehouse might look like. So what I'm going to work on now is we're going to use the warehouse management system, and we're going to look at how we can look at information in the warehouse, how we can do purchase order receiving, labeling, and put away using bins. All right? Now, to get started, I'm going to introduce you to two different applications that work together. Okay. So the first application we're going to look at is the WiSys Agility Explorer application. It runs on the desktop, and we built this, one, to do administrative work for the handheld software, and also to give you real-time views into the system that may or may not exist in Makola, and give you access to deep data in Makola, all in one location. The handheld we call Agility Mobile. And with Agility Mobile, I can have multiple companies. And just like I have multiple companies here, I can have multiple companies on the handheld. If I log in, I'm going to log in as Joe. So when I log in as Joe, I get just the icons Joe needs. When I log in here, I'm going to log into the same company. And if we do a little administrative work here, we'll go ahead and look at Joe's setup. So when I look at Joe as the system administrator, I can give Joe access to different things just by checking these little boxes. So this is a big time saver and the ability to do things. So if I look at the handheld, let's watch how this works. These are the icon Joe has right now. I want to give him another one called Putaway. So I'm just going to check that box and say Putaway. So now, if I go back to the handheld, I log out, I log in, and now I have Joe's screen, and notice that I have Putaway. So Putaway was not there, now it is there. That's how easy it is to just add something to somebody's mobile device. So we've got two applications, and one on the handheld and one on the desktop. So to get started with our picture today, I want to show you a picture of the item master. So you're used to looking at Makola in the Makola multi-level item view, or looking at item maintenance, or being able to do lookups on items, things like that. This is a grid like Excel, and I can arrange all these fields in the way that I want to look at them. So you'll see right now I am using the Bob view. I could easily switch to the way Mary likes to look at the data. So just by clicking these buttons here, I can filter. Mary wants to look at just lotted data. So anytime I click on the Mary view, I just get what Mary can see. If I click on the Bob view, Bob sees everything. I can also add more information. So if you use special fields out of your item master for different things, you know, if you've used crystal reports to be able to do stuff, you could just add a note field here. You could go down and find a user-defined field. You could drop that on the screen. So for today, I have these items that I am going to use, and I'm going to specifically focus on a s'more. I'm going to make a s'more. I'm going to work with s'mores and ship s'mores and move them around. So when I look at Agility, I have the ability to look at all the Makola data in the item master and all the linked tables. So if I look at s'mores, and here I'm looking at a s'more, and you'll see that I have buttons across the bottom. These buttons give me integration to all the other linked tables in Makola that are relevant related to a s'more. So if I look at my open sales orders, you'll notice today I'm going to be working on 3 sales orders for s'mores. I have none in stock, so I've got a problem. So basically, I've got demand in my system, and I have need for s'mores, and it just so happens that I have a purchase order here, purchase order 92. So I can look at that purchase order. I can drill down and look at what's on the purchase order, and I can see what's been happening with this purchase order. I could even reprint the purchase order if I need to. That's an integration with Crystal. Okay, so just sitting right here, I'm just going to leave this open, and you can imagine, depending on what hat you're wearing in the company, you might have questions about what's going on. Right now, I'd be expediting pretty hard to get some s'mores to be received. So I'm going to use the handheld right now, and you are going to hear my printer print when it prints. So right now, I'm going to do some PO receiving. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scan my purchase order that I'm going to receive. And you'll see here that for me to be able to do receiving, I have to have a valid PO. So once I scan, I'm going to scan my PO, and it's going to do a validation. If you don't have a barcode, that's still okay. You could type here, or you could do a lookup. So any PO that's out there that's printed is fair game to be received. But I am going to have to validate that I have a good PO. So that's good. Now, once I have the PO on the screen, it's going to validate that the item I want to receive is validated against that PO. Again, if I scanned the wrong thing by mistake, I'd get a bad sound and a bad color. And that's good, but why is that good? Because that means the guy in the shop isn't going to get yelled at later. It means that you're going to self-correct as you go. So in this case, I can scan my barcode for s'mores, and it's going to tell me you have never received this item before into the bin we're going to put it in. And so in my system, it is defaulted to receive to the dock bin. So when I receive any item that's binned, it's going to show up immediately on the dock, and I'll have visibility. Now in this case, there are other things I could scan. I could scan the barcode that comes from my supplier. If you have your linkage set up in Makola for your vendor cross-references, you could get their scan to get that item. It could also be a UPC code and a number of other fields that are user-definable that will match up. Now, at this point, not only is this item binned, but it's lotted. And I've heard many times before, hey, we're not going to use bins and we're not going to use lots because it's just too much extra work. And it is too much extra work because you have to write it all down and somebody has to key it in later. So when you begin to scan things, not only are you trying to scan to get the information right, but you're using a mobile device to get Makola updated as things happen. So it just so happens that my supplier has their manufacturer's lot number here for me to scan. And of course, this looks like the date code and the lot run of that batch. And then the quantity, you'll notice the quantity here is 144. I can receive any amount of that, and it will keep telling me the quantity left to receive. I'm going to keep it simple today and receive all 144. And I could do a rejection here. Now, before I just hit the enter button, this enter button down here, or the save button here, I want to point out that my printer is any valid network printer that is available to me. So I want to pick, by default, the one that's closest to me at the receiving dock. So when I hit save, you're going to hear it just printed my barcode label. Now, the really nice thing about WiSys is those barcode labels are saved inside of SQL Server. So as I begin to administer the system and set things up, labels related to shipping, manufacturing, receiving, compliance for people that you're trying to ship to, all these things are stored inside of the database. So you'll see here that this is a crystal label, and if you're familiar with the Makola table names, you realize quickly that you could add your own logo, and you can put anything on your label that you want. And your labels can either be small like this one, or even smaller if they have small little items in bags and things like that. Or you could print an 8.5 by 11 pallet label, things like that. They're all easy to print. And they're memorized in the system, and you can make them public for everybody, or you can make them for one particular company, or each item can have its own label. Lots of options there. And from the IT guy's point of view, when you save it in there, it's immediately available across your enterprise. So if you're in California and you're working on your Chicago location and you make the updates here for that particular customer and vendor, immediately in your enterprise, it's saved. You don't have to email somebody a crystal label and move it around from directory to directory. Okay, you'll notice here that the information doesn't look any different. That's because I just need to refresh this screen. When I hit the refresh, any of these screens have a little refresh button on them. When I hit those refreshes, it automatically goes out and rereads the Makola information. All of that's done inside the Makola tables. I can even drill down into the transaction and look at it there, so I can see the accounting and how that's working out. I can also drill down to the bin, and I can see the receiver. I can see the dock, where the product is, and the quantity. Again, if it's lotted, if you had multiple things there, you could see the lot. So all that is real-time connected. Okay, now that that material is physically at the dock, we would go through our QC process, and we have options on that to keep it simple today. I have just received that lot. It's immediately released, and I'm going to be able to put it away. When I do a put-away transaction, a put-away is really a transfer. But it's a special kind of transfer because it's going to only show me items that are at the dock. So these 3 items are sitting there waiting for put away. So typically I would walk up to the label that when you heard me print that label, I would have applied that label to the 144. And so I would have gone ahead, and now I'm going to scan that very label, get the item, and now I'm going to transfer that product. I'm going to put it on my tote, my forklift, my carrier, whatever, and I'm going to drive over, and I'm going to put it in bin A100. So there it is. And if I couldn't put 144 in there, I could put part of it in there, and I could put the rest somewhere else. But in this case, I'm going to put all 144 in that location. So just that quick, the data is updated. If I went to Makola, went into multi-level item view, if I look at s'mores, and if I look at s'mores here, I'll open it up. And if I drill down now, the same data that's here is the same data that I just did in Makola. Let's look at a couple of other options. First of all, just like I showed you in Makola, we have multi-level item view. So I walk up to an item, and I want to know what it is. And I would scan maybe the bin or have it default. And here I'm looking at s'mores, and I want to know what is that product and where is it. So here it shows me the same information that I just showed you in Makola, and the bin information too. There's my lot. So it's all there real time for me to look at. A couple other things here is we have issue, receipt, transfer, and that sort of thing. I can actually reprint a label here if I had a problem.